Well, hello and welcome to my channel, Made at Home with Rebecca. So glad you stopped by. Today we're going to be making a quick and easy recipe for dinner that you can make for your family. We're going to start off with 4 carrots and a bag of asparagus. I'm going to take these over to the sink later and rinse them off really well before we chop them up. When I was thinking about making this recipe, I thought about what is something that I always have as staples in my house. I usually always have a bag of carrots and sweet potatoes. So I was like, let's roast those up and we can have them with our chicken and white sauce. It's actually a chicken with mushroom white sauce that's really delicious. So I want to share that recipe with you. And it's really easy. So if you're intimidated and you're not really someone who likes to be in the kitchen to cook, I think you'll like this recipe. Grab yourself a cookie sheet and line it with parchment paper before you start chopping up your vegetables. Now let's begin to chop up these carrots. Now, I'm going to chop the carrots with the skins on. I like the nutritional value that the skins add, but if you'd like, go ahead and peel your carrots before you start chopping. Also, the reason why I carry carrots in my refrigerator almost all year round is because they are something that I can carry that's inexpensive. I can add them to stews, I can add them to soups, I can add them to a salad. You can even make a carrot cake. They have so many different uses for carrots and they're inexpensive that I think it's something that your family should have in the refrigerator. And not only that, they're very good for you. So depending on if you're a carrot person or not, I highly recommend that you give them a try if you not really have used them in the past. You can do so many different things with them. I even add balsamic vinegar and some feta cheese. Sometimes I'll drizzle honey over them after I've roasted them and added some pepper flakes and make them a little bit spicy. But you do what you like. This recipe, we're just going to make it simple. We're going to roast some vegetables with some olive oil and some kosher salt. Now I have a big bag of sweet potatoes. I'm not going to use all those sweet potatoes. I'm only going to use one. And one is actually all we need for my family of 4. But if you think you need more, please feel free to chop up more than what I am doing here for your family. This recipe is pretty forgiving. You can't really mess it up at all. Now, if you prefer, you can also use a potato peeler, but I just use my knife. That's just what I've always done. So for me, this works. Now I'm going to start doing a little bit of cleanup before I start chopping up my onions. Now the night before I had made hamburgers, so I had leftover purple onions. And to be honest with you, I did have a bag of white onions, but when I went to pull them out, some of them were rotten and the rest of them just didn't look that great. So I was like, you know what? I remember I have those purple onions from the hamburgers we made the other night. So I'm not going to put those to waste. I'm going to use them for this recipe. But I actually do like white onions or yellow onions for this recipe, but the purple onions taste just as great. So take those onions and chop them up to the size that you prefer and add those to the carrots, the sweet potatoes, and the onions. And then we'll drizzle them, like I said, with just a little bit of olive oil and some kosher salt. Now we're going to start preparing our asparagus for roasting as well. Again, you'll need another cookie sheet and you're going to line it with some parchment paper. And then we'll start chopping up and preparing that asparagus. I like to add sliced lemons on the top of my asparagus, as well as some kosher salt and olive oil to roast. But if you don't have any lemons, don't worry about it. You don't have to have the lemons. If you have them, great. It just adds a little special touch and it just looks pretty. And to be honest, it tastes really good too. I have already pre-washed these asparagus, so now I'm going to remove the bottoms. They tend to be a little bit tough, so for me, I like to take them off before roasting. Now, when you're in the kitchen, I want you to learn, have fun, okay? Try to make this a time of therapy for yourself, a place to enjoy, to create something for your family. If you make a mistake, if you add too much salt, if you don't add enough, it's not the end of the world. This is something that I enjoy doing. It's a way that I can unwind from my day. It's a way that I can connect with the food that was created for us to eat, to nourish ourselves. It's a way for me to make something with my hands so that way I can share it with my family and those that I love. So I don't want you to be in the kitchen and feel the stress of trying to be perfect, because we don't need to be perfect when we're in the kitchen. We need to have fun. We need to enjoy this process. So I want you to learn to enjoy cooking in the kitchen for your family and for your friends. And if you're new to cooking, don't worry. As you continue to do it and try new recipes, you're going to get better and better. Everyone has to start somewhere. I am so thankful that I wasn't afraid to start cooking and baking. I've made and continue to make a lot of mistakes, but I learned from those mistakes and I just enjoy doing. It's therapeutic for me. Now we're going to take a lemon and we're going to slice it into thin slices and we're going to place those slices over our asparagus. They add a lot of flavor. Having acidic with some salt makes the dish for me stand out. But if you don't have lemon, you don't have to add that. It does look really pretty, especially for a summer dish and even in the springtime. But if you don't have it, don't worry about it. The asparagus, I promise, will taste just as great without it. At this point, you want to make sure that your oven has been preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to be roasting the vegetables for 25 to 35 minutes. So go ahead and get that on right now to preheat so that way it'll be ready to go when you put these into the oven. My oven is at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm ready to take my carrots, my sweet potatoes, and my onions and my asparagus and place them on 2 racks and let them roast for 25 to 35 minutes. Go ahead and set your timer so you don't forget about them. If you need a little bit of a longer roast, you can just add more time. But for me, they were done in about 35 minutes. I'm going to be using cremini mushrooms for our white sauce with mushrooms for our chicken recipe, but whatever mushroom you have on hand will work. These ones are already pre-sliced, so I'm just going to have to rinse them off before using them. Okay, so here is the dilemma. Ideally, I would like to have defrosted some chicken, but the reality is most of the time I don't have time to defrost it ahead of time. So I grab myself some frozen chicken thighs or chicken breasts, but we're using thighs for this recipe, straight from my freezer, you guys, and I add it to a Ziploc. It's a 1-gallon Ziploc. I will be adding 6 frozen chicken thighs, and I will place them in my microwave. Yes, you heard me right, in my microwave to defrost them on defrost. After that's done, defrosting, then we can use these in our dish for tonight's dinner. I have really tried really hard to prepare my meal menu for the week, but I'm going to be honest, that doesn't always happen. So when I come home, I always know, just like my carrots, I always have chicken. So I kind of think on the spot when I get home, what am I going to make for dinner tonight? And we always have chicken. My family likes chicken. I honestly don't really get tired of it, but I just have different cuts of chicken. And so this works for me. If you're more of a planner, that is great. But for me, frozen to defrost in microwave is what I like to do. Now I'm going to turn on my stovetop onto a medium-high heat so I can start to saute my chicken thighs. We're going to add some olive oil, be generous with the olive oil, and then I'm going to add about a tablespoon of butter. Now that I've added all 6 of the chicken thighs, I'm going to wipe up a little bit before I start adding my seasonings. Now, full disclosure here, I don't always measure things when it comes to spices. I kind of do it by taste. So if I had to guess, I'm going to be adding about a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, about 2 teaspoons of Green Goddess. It's a seasoning blend that I have from Trader Joe's. If you don't have a Trader Joe's in your area, I will try to remember to put the ingredients that are found in that mix. in the video below. Onion powder. I always have onion powder. So probably about a teaspoon of onion powder, about a teaspoon of granulated garlic, and about a teaspoon of parsley flakes. Not only does parsley flakes add great flavor, I love the color that it adds to any dish. I'm going to go ahead and cover this and let it continue to cook for about 15 minutes with the lid on. Now we're ready to turn over our chicken thighs so they can cook on the other side. Now, how do you know when your chicken thighs are done? You want to make sure that the internal temperature is at least at 165 degrees Fahrenheit. I like to use a meat thermometer, that way I'm not guessing. So the bottoms have gotten a little bit of browning on them, which is really nice. Now to the chicken, I'm going to add my mushrooms that I had washed previously. We're just going to pour all those right over. Let's go ahead and add the lid right back over so we can get a nice little steam, so it'll help cook those mushrooms. Now, before making our white sauce, I want to check the temperature of our chicken thighs and make sure they've reached that 165 degrees Fahrenheit. So I have my meat thermometer and I'm going to go ahead and insert it into the thickest part of the thighs. Now that the chicken thighs have read 165 degrees Fahrenheit, we are ready to make our roux. I'm going to melt 2 tablespoons of butter in the microwave in my measuring cup. And to that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. I'm going to whisk it really well within the butter and the flour before I add it to my saucepan. When I add it to the saucepan, I'm going to add it right in the center. And I'm going to cook the butter and the flour first before I add my half and half. So 1 tablespoon and then 2 tablespoons. Now you're going to whisk. Let's put that right into the center of our saucepan and start to cook it. What this does, it takes away any of that floury taste and it gives it a little bit of a browning. The butter helps with that. And then when you add the cream, that flour and butter mixture is going to thicken your sauce. You're going to add about a half a cup of half and half cream to the butter and flour mixture. And you're going to begin to stir that to get that nice and thick. At this point, I realized I would like a little bit more sauce, so let's add some more half and half. My sauce still was a little bit thick than I prefer, so I'm going to add just a little bit of water. If I had to guess, it was probably like 2 tablespoons. Okay, to this recipe, I'm going to be adding some capers that are in vinegar. I found these from my local Trader Joe's. I'm going to read exactly what's on the back of it. It says, capers are the flower buds which are harvested from a prickly shrub native to the Mediterranean. The small buds are picked and then pickled in vinegar brine. Capers tend to be salty, so you may want to rinse the capers in water before serving. For this dish, they added a lot of flavor, and I really like capers. And I also like parsley, so I added some more. Let me taste this to make sure all the seasonings have come together well. Delicious.
Lastly, we're going to add some shredded Parmesan cheese to the top. Now our roasted vegetables are ready. I'm ready to pull these out. And wow, these look delicious. They are all nicely golden. I'm sure they're going to taste nice and sweet. The carrots, the sweet potato, the onions, and the asparagus with lemons. I can't wait to pull this whole entire dish together.
Thank you for stopping by and joining us on Made at Home with Rebecca. I really enjoyed that you were able to follow along this recipe. Don't forget to try your own recipes at home. Try something new. Even if you make a mistake, you're going to learn something that you didn't know before. If you enjoyed this recipe and you would like to see more recipes like it, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment below. Until next time.